game 1, set 2 in the upper bracket, round 2. Sub versus Frontier Guard.
Yeah, and both players kind of leaking some elixir, waiting for the opponent to make the first play. This is very common in Clash Royale. You know, your towers, I always tell people all the time, your towers are the only thing in the game that do not cost elixir. You want to make use of them as much as possible by luring your opponent to your side of the map.
And in case your memory is as bad as mine, remember Frontier Guard did hold for pause game number 1 of his set number 1, but he was running a fast deck, as you can see already with Knight and Barbarian. Definitely going to go a bit heavier. Juicy, this feels like pieces of Graveyard, but not a lock.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be Graveyard. It's most likely Graveyard. There are definitely chances for other things. Sub, on the other hand, looking like an Electro Giant deck, honestly. Electro Giant Evo Cage. Matchup-wise, I would say usually Graveyard can win this because it's really solid control, but it really depends on what building Frontier Guard has.
And there it is. Graveyard comes down right away. Early Graveyard pull. You see the Evo Cage come out. That's not usually the way you want to defend.
Yeah.
And you can see Frontier Guard with a big smile on his face. The aggression pays off once again. And that's one thing I've loved about watching this guy play today. He is not scared to bring it to your door.
It's true. He's really aggressive playstyle, and I think that really works out in World Finals, where there can be a little bit of nerves. And once again, you know, Sub on the outside, not showing many nerves, but that cage, you know, the common idea is to pull the Knight into the cage so that your Princess Tower can target the Graveyard skeletons. And I'm just seeing a little bit of mistakes here from Sub.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about with nerves beforehand. You know, Sub has not been out yet. Frontier Guard has already played through a match that people thought he was going to lose, and he goes right back to being hyper-aggressive. Bar barrel through, ice was down. Great poison value here for Frontier Guard, and he has locked that defense down, 24-44 to just below 2,000 on Sub's side.
Cage once again trying to get the Evo in cycle, and it's actually not E-Dragon, it's Golem.
It is Golem.
Golem from Sub. That's interesting. I honestly think you'd rather an Electro Giant.
And it's so interesting because in our player interviews, we talked to them, we sent out a questionnaire. He said he'd want to remove Golem and Goblin Machine from the game. That is what Sub said, so maybe thinking his opponents did a little bit of homework, some trickeration, as Rich said before.
Okay, Golem, Evo Baby Dragon on the board. The lightning drops down, hits the Ice Wiz, the Goblin Hut. Evo Witch is on the board. It's going to do a decent job. Tornado? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. NATO does clean up a lot of stuff there. Not going to take care of that Evo Witch, though. Although Baby Dragon does retarget on top of her, I think she's going to stay alive.
Wow.
And that is a bit frustrating if you're Sub. You know the Graveyard's coming down instantly.
But the Witch Evo does get taken out, and the Barbarian kites the Knight forward, so the Princess Tower is targeting the skeletons on defense. That was one skeleton for that entire 5 elixir. And look at the Golem at the bridge.
Golem at the bridge, Golden Knight behind. Sub now in the lead, 1896, 1372, 80 seconds remaining.
Lightning, boom, boom, boom.
Beautiful lightning.
Everything on the defense, and this Golem is still held.
Oh, and now the dash! Oh! It just misses it.
I can't believe it doesn't reach. Wait, the Goblin Hut will get death damage? It does. That's big death damage here, Andrew.
And you got to remember that the Golemite's doing a little bit more damage now, too, all the way down to below 400 HP. This is one of those I can defend in cycles, so we're going to see Frontier Guard switch lanes.
Knight, Witch, Evo, Cage pulls in.
And this is exactly the defense you talked about earlier, Juice, and that's what I love about Sub. He recognized the mistake early on, he fixes the mistake, and now he's firmly in control. That's what consistency is all about.
Yeah, with 35 seconds left, Sub just needs to cycle back to another Graveyard. This is last chance from Frontier Guard to make a Graveyard push happen, but I just don't think it's enough.
It's definitely not going to be enough. He'd need a freeze, he'd need vines, he'd need a miracle. Lightning at the bridge, and that again, that is such a smart play. You might just think, oh, why doesn't he take the tower? He's already won the game. If somehow there's a lightning block that comes in, I mean, honestly, near impossible, but if somehow it happens, then Sub loses. He's not going to lose this way.
Yeah, the Baby Dragon's just cleaning up. The Golden Knight is there. This is the experience that it takes to be a champion. Sub taking game number 1.
Honestly,
We're into game 2, and you can see the previous battle decks here. None of these cards can be repeated by that player, and we do see another mortar. I think he heard you.
I know he heard me. He can hear this room. My voice is echoing. Thank you, Frontier Guard. Wow. I hope it pays off.
Okay, a Vine spell, not quite quick enough. The Cannon Cart taking on the Witch. This counter push is definitely threatening, and he used Bar Barrel previously, so he doesn't have, he gets the Valk down in time.
And you heard the crowd gasp there. Valk comes down after one shot in from that Cannon Cart. It ends up being a pretty clean defense here for Sub as they both basically reset. Elixir slightly in favor of Sub just because he has a building on the board.
So Sub with Graveyard, Frontier Guard with Mortar. You know, honestly, when I look at a matchup like this, I just see Evo Valk value and Evo Witch value. That is unless Frontier Guard has Lightning. We've seen Mortar decks like this with Lightning previously. If he has it, it's going to be a game changer.
And we saw this deck run earlier by Igor without Lightning, and he was really wanting for it. And then when you talk about this matchup, it looks like Sub is probably running Graveyard with Evo Witch with that Vine spell, which is basically a freeze now. And when you're going up against Cannoneer, you got to be feeling pretty good when you're running GY.
A Mortar at the bridge. Let's see if it can log. The skeletons from the opposite lane will distract, and then a Gob Hut. This is the one thing in this matchup, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about
please, no, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, when I am playing Gob Hut, the last thing I want to play against is Mortar and Expo. You know, those siege units are really a struggle to deal with.
Yeah, and I was actually just going to say, if we were going to gush about the balance team, I think they did such a great job with the rework of the Gob Hut, a card that was basically dead and now has found itself incredibly competitively viable. And we see a Valkyrie plus Vines at the bridge to try to clean everything up. Does a pretty dang good job of it, too.
Okay, Guard does get some early damage here in this matchup, but what Graveyard is all about is just defending, waiting for that correct moment to get the counter push and go all in with the Graveyard, the poison, everything.
Now, I don't think this is a lost matchup by any means. One great part of it is that you have the Cannon Cart to do some great damage up at the river, but you have the Goblinstein to kind of set the line against a Graveyard. But Juicy, when you talk about matchup, do you think that this is still in favor of Graveyard just because of Cannoneer and Vines and all that?
Yeah, and then with the Miner, we're not going to be seeing Lightning either. So this Evo Witch is going to be an absolute menace, not only on defense, but on offense. And here comes the Graveyard, Andrew.
Yep, first Graveyard in. There's the Miner coming out defensively, poising again on top of that Goblin Stein Doctor, not the monster.
Witch, once again, just healing herself.
Yeah.
Blocking the Mortar with the Valk. Witch does go in front. Will the Cannoneer lock onto the Witch? It does not. On the Skeletons, it's getting distracted.
Wow.
This Witch is a threat.
And now it's going to get on top of the Berserker, and then it gets on top of the Valkyrie.
Wow.
This Witch is still alive, and Frontier Guard having to spend an arm and a leg to defend.
And he finally gets it down, but now he's just down so much Elixir. The Graveyard comes through, and the ability does defend. Kind of a nice gang in the other lane to kind of like force out some Elixir.
Yeah, that way you're not able to drop the poison on top of the Goblin Doctor once again.
Well done from Frontier Guard. Once again, it seems like his playstyle is about aggression.
Yep, and that was a great way of recognizing what would I do if I was in his shoes. I would poison out again, let me get aggressive, let me pull some Elixir to the opposite lane.
But still, it's Sub up in the damage lead. And in Triple Elixir, it's only going to get more difficult for Guard here. Graveyard is known to thrive in the Triple Elixir overtime.
Goblin Gang plus Miner. Witch going to come out to clean things up. 2 Witches on the board. A lot of Skeletons to gain health from. That's a pretty decent poison at the bridge. Doesn't even need to do it. The Witch stays alive so long, and this Goblin Hut does great work against that Goblinstein.
Evo Valk at the bridge. Evo Witch at the bridge. So the next card will be a Graveyard.
This is a scary
And after that, a poison.
Juicy's calling it right now. There's the Graveyard. He got it. There's the Vines coming in. Doesn't even need the poison.
Wow.
The Skellies take out the Doctor, and that's going to do it.